Well, aren't you a long way from Coach? What if I told you that one sentence dripping with sarcasm and prejudice didn't just ruin a flight attendant's day, it vaporized a $500 million corporate deal? This isn't a story about a simple complaint. This is the story of Dr. Evelyn Reed, a black CEO with a PhD in material science and a company worth billions, who was ordered off a plane for the crime of being in a first-class seat she paid for. But the airline, Aura Airlines, didn't know who they were messing with. They expected her to be quiet. They expected her to be compliant. They didn't expect her to unleash a storm of corporate karma so precise and so devastating it would make Wall Street history. The air in the first-class cabin of Aura Airlines Flight 715 from New York to San Francisco was a carefully curated illusion of tranquility. It smelled of warm towels, expensive leather, and the faint citrusy tang of complimentary champagne. For Dr. Evelyn Reed, it was simply 5 hours of uninterrupted time to finalize the last details of the biggest partnership of her career. At 42, Evelyn was the founder and CEO of Innovate Dynamics, a company that had revolutionized battery technology. Her face had graced the cover of Forbes and Wired, yet she moved with an unassuming grace that rarely betrayed her status. Dressed in a tailored navy blue blazer and simple silk shell, she had her laptop open, her brow furrowed in concentration as she reviewed the intricate schematics of a new solid-state battery array. This technology was the heart of a $500 million deal she was flying to San Francisco to sign. The deal was with Aura Airlines itself. Innovate Dynamics was set to retrofit Aura's entire fleet with next-generation power systems, a landmark contract that would redefine in-flight energy consumption and solidify her company's legacy. The flight attendant moving through the cabin was a woman named Caroline Peterson. In her late 40s, with blonde hair pulled into a severe bun and a smile that never quite reached her eyes, Caroline operated with a sense of territorial ownership over the premium cabin. She saw herself not as staff, but as the gatekeeper of an exclusive club. Evelyn, needing to retrieve a crucial document from her briefcase in the overhead bin, stood up. She was a tall, statuesque woman, and her presence had a quiet authority. As she reached up, the sleeve of her blazer rode up, revealing a simple, elegant Cartier bracelet on her wrist. Caroline, who was passing by, stopped. Her eyes did a quick, dismissive scan, from Evelyn's intricate braids to her sensible but expensive leather loafers. It was a practiced, dehumanizing appraisal that took less than 2 seconds. "Can I help you with something?" Caroline asked, her tone clipped. "No, thank you. I've got it," Evelyn replied politely, not looking down. She retrieved her folio and was about to sit when Caroline spoke again, her voice loud enough for the surrounding passengers to hear. "You know, you need to be careful with those overhead bins. They can be tricky. We can't have things falling out." The implication was clear. You don't belong here. You don't know how things work in this part of the plane. Evelyn paused, folio in hand. She met the flight attendant's gaze. "I've flown first class more times this year than you've likely served coffee," she said, her voice low and steady, devoid of anger but sharp as glass. "I understand how an overhead bin works." A flicker of fury crossed Caroline's face. She had been challenged. The other passengers, a tech bro engrossed in his tablet and a politician reading a newspaper, pointedly ignored the exchange. Evelyn sat down, refusing to give the woman another ounce of her energy. She opened the folio and tried to refocus on her work, but the calm had been shattered. It was a familiar sting, a microaggression she'd dealt with her entire life, but it never got easier. It was the tax she paid for being successful while black. 20 minutes later, Caroline returned, this time with the pre-departure beverage service. She served the man across the aisle with a saccharine smile, then turned to Evelyn. Her professional mask was back in place, but it was thin. "Drink order." "Just water with lemon, please," Evelyn said without looking up. "Of course." Caroline returned and placed the glass on the small table next to Evelyn's laptop. As she did, she accidentally jostled the glass, sending a splash of ice-cold water across Evelyn's keyboard and the critical contract papers she was reviewing. "Oh my goodness, I am so sorry," Caroline exclaimed, her voice thick with false concern. "How clumsy of me." Evelyn shot up, grabbing the soaked papers. They were bleeding ink. Her laptop sputtered and went dark. The schematic, her notes, the finalized addendum, all drenched. It wasn't just clumsy, it felt deliberate. A petty act of sabotage. "This is..." Evelyn started, her voice tight with controlled rage. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to remain composed. This was a completely avoidable accident. "Well," Caroline said, her fake sympathy evaporating, replaced by a defensive sneer. "Maybe if you weren't so cluttered here, these things wouldn't happen." She gestured at Evelyn's workspace, a laptop, a folio, and a pen. That was it. The final straw. The condescension, the insinuation that she was the problem. "Your clumsiness just damaged several $1,000s worth of equipment and confidential documents," Evelyn said, her voice dropping to a dangerous calm. "I would like to speak to your purser. Now." Caroline's eyes narrowed. "I am the lead flight attendant in this cabin. You can speak to me." "No," Evelyn stated, standing to her full height. "I'm not speaking with you. Your behavior has been unprofessional and passive-aggressive since I boarded. This latest incident feels less like an accident and more like a targeted act of disrespect. Get your superior." The confrontation had finally drawn the attention of the other passengers. Caroline, seeing she was losing control, felt a surge of panicked fury. She saw a black woman challenging her authority in her cabin. Her prejudice, simmering just below the surface, boiled over. She took a step back, crossed her arms, and delivered the line that would echo across boardrooms and news headlines. "Well, aren't you a long way from Coach?" she said with a derisive laugh. "Some people just can't handle the upgrade." The cabin fell silent. The tech bro lowered his tablet. The politician peered over his newspaper. The racism was no longer veiled. It was naked, ugly, and undeniable. Evelyn Reed didn't raise her voice. She didn't yell. She simply stared at Caroline with an intensity that made the flight attendant's smirk falter. In that moment, Evelyn wasn't just a passenger. She was the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and the woman in front of her had just insulted not just her, but the very principles of respect and dignity her company was built on. "I see," Evelyn said softly. "Please have the gate agent and airport security meet us at the jet bridge. You will be reporting this incident, and so will I, but I suspect our reports will differ." Caroline, realizing she had gone too far, tried to backtrack. "Now hold on, there's no need to be dramatic. The time for discussion is over," Evelyn cut her off. She turned to the passenger across the aisle. "Sir, did you hear what she just said?" The tech bro, a young man named Leo, just nodded, his eyes wide. "Yeah, I heard it." Before Caroline could respond, Evelyn pressed the call button. When another flight attendant arrived, Evelyn spoke with chilling precision. "There has been a serious incident with lead attendant Caroline. I am feeling threatened, and I am requesting to deplane. Please inform the captain and have security meet me. I will not be flying on this aircraft today." The chain of events was set in motion. 15 minutes later, 2 Port Authority officers and a stern-faced Aura Airlines ground manager named Douglas were standing at the door of the plane. Douglas, a man who radiated bureaucratic indifference, listened impatiently as Caroline gave a frantic, twisted version of events, painting Evelyn as an unruly and demanding passenger who became aggressive after a minor spill. He then turned to Evelyn, his expression already hardened with judgment. "Ma'am, we have a flight to get off the ground. I'm going to have to ask you to come with me." There was no question, no investigation, no interest in her side of the story. He saw a flight attendant and a black woman, and he made his choice. Evelyn gathered her things, including the water-damaged laptop and papers, with a quiet, deliberate dignity that was more powerful than any outburst. As the security officers escorted her off the plane, walking her down the jet bridge like a common criminal, she didn't look back. But as she stepped into the terminal, the humiliation washing over her, it wasn't sadness she felt. It was a cold, clarifying rage, a CEO's rage. They had disrespected her. They had racially profiled her. And they had done it on the eve of signing a $500 million contract. They thought they were removing an unruly passenger. They had no idea they had just canceled their own deal. The karma wouldn't just be coming. It was already on its way. The office they put her in was a small, windowless box in the depths of LaGuardia's Terminal C. It smelled of stale coffee and industrial cleaner. The Aura Airlines ground manager, Douglas, sat across a metal desk from her, his posture exuding a weary impatience. He had already made up his mind. "Look, Miss Reed," he began, not bothering to use her title. "The flight attendant has filed a report. She says you became verbally abusive after an accidental spill. The captain has the right to refuse service to any passenger who poses a disruption. Our hands are tied." Evelyn sat perfectly still, her hands folded over her ruined folio in her lap. The cold fury from the jet bridge had now crystallized into something far more dangerous: strategy. "Mr. Douglas," she said, her voice even and devoid of emotion. "My name is Dr. Evelyn Reed. I am the CEO of Innovate Dynamics. Your flight attendant, Caroline Peterson, made a series of passive-aggressive remarks, deliberately damaged my property, and then made a racially charged comment to me in front of multiple witnesses. You have not asked for my side of the story. You have not questioned any other passengers. You have simply accepted the word of your employee over a paying first-class customer." Douglas sighed, rubbing his temples. He was a mid-level manager dealing with what he thought was just another entitled passenger. "We have procedures to follow. You can file a complaint with our customer service department. They'll issue you a voucher for the inconvenience." A voucher. The sheer insulting absurdity of it almost made her laugh. A $200 flight voucher to compensate for public humiliation, racial profiling, and the potential derailment of a multi-million-dollar project. "A voucher won't be necessary," Evelyn said softly. She pulled out her phone. "I need to make a call. You can either stay and listen, or you can give me the room." Slightly taken aback by her sudden shift in tone, Douglas hesitated, then grunted and left the room, closing the door behind him. He probably assumed she was calling a lawyer to make an empty threat. Evelyn scrolled through her contacts and pressed the name Ben Carter, her chief operating officer. Ben was her rock, a brilliant, no-nonsense logistical genius who had been with her since Innovate Dynamics was just 3 people in a garage. He answered on the second ring. "Evelyn, you should be in the air. Everything okay?" "I'm not on the plane, Ben," she said, her voice steady. "I was removed." There was a moment of stunned silence on the other end. "Removed? What are you talking about? Was there a security issue, a mechanical problem?" "The issue was with a flight attendant," Evelyn explained, concisely recounting the entire incident, from the initial condescension to the water spill to the final racist remark. She relayed it not as a victim, but as a case study in catastrophic corporate failure. When she finished, Ben let out a low whistle. "Good God, Evelyn. Are you all right?" "I'm fine," she said, and it was true. The hurt was secondary now. The primary emotion was a clear-eyed sense of purpose. "Ben, where are we with the Aura contract? Is the ink dry?" "Not yet. The final signature from their CEO, Richard Sterling, is scheduled for the ceremony tomorrow morning. Our board has already approved our side. Why? Because you're going to cancel it," Evelyn said. Another silence, this one longer, heavier. Ben knew her. He knew she was not prone to impulsive decisions. "Evelyn, hold on," he said slowly, the COO in him instantly calculating the fallout. "That's a $500 million deal. It's the cornerstone of our Q3 valuation. The market is expecting it. Canceling it now, the shockwave would be immense. Our stock will take a massive hit." "It will," Evelyn agreed calmly. "And then it will recover. What won't recover is our integrity if we choose to partner with a company whose culture is so fundamentally rotten that its employees feel empowered to racially profile customers with impunity. Think about it, Ben. What is our brand? Innovation, forward-thinking, integrity. We champion diversity in our own workforce. We have mentorship programs for young women in STEM. How can we, in good conscience, hand $500 million to a company that treats people this way? She stood up and began to pace the small room, her voice gaining intensity. This wasn't just a rude flight attendant, Ben. This was a symptom of a diseased culture. The ground manager, Douglas, didn't even bother to investigate. He saw me, he saw her, and he made a judgment based on a set of ugly, preconceived notions. This is Aura Airlines. This is who they are. Their values are incompatible with ours. Ben was still processing the sheer scale of what she was proposing. The board, they'll have to vote on this. Arthur Kensington will have a stroke. Arthur Kensington was a holdover from their initial round of venture capital funding, an old-money traditionalist who viewed everything through the cold lens of a balance sheet. Let him, Evelyn said. I will handle Arthur. I will handle the board. Right now, I need you to do 2 things. First, draft a preliminary termination notice. Cite irreconcilable differences in corporate values and a failure to meet basic standards of professional conduct, effective immediately. Second, I want you to leak it, not officially. A quiet tip to our contact at the Wall Street Journal. Let them break the story. Let the reason be vague at first. Let Aura wonder what hit them. This was the twist of the knife. A public announcement would give Aura time to spin the narrative. A leak would create chaos and force them to react from a position of ignorance and panic. They'll deny everything, Ben warned. Let them, Evelyn said. They'll be denying something they don't even understand yet. By the time they figure out this fire started with a flight attendant in seat 2A, their credibility will already be ashes. Ben was quiet for a moment longer. Then his voice came back, firm and resolute. He was in. Okay, Evelyn, I'm on it. What about you? How are you getting to San Francisco? A grim smile touched Evelyn's lips for the first time that day. Book me on the next flight out, any airline except Aura. And Ben, book me in coach. I think I'll be more comfortable there. She hung up the phone. The decision was made. The die was cast. She sat back down, a sense of calm descending upon her. The humiliation had been replaced by the thrill of the counterattack. Aura Airlines had tried to put her in her place. They had no idea she was about to do the same to them, on a scale they couldn't possibly imagine. She opened the door. Douglas, the ground manager, was leaning against the wall, scrolling on his phone. He looked up, annoyed. Are you finished? Yes, Evelyn said, walking past him towards the main terminal. We are. And so, by the way, is your airline's $500 million contract with my company. You might want to update your resume. She didn't look back to see the stunned, confused expression on his face. She had a new flight to catch, a board to convince, and a corporate war to win. The emergency board meeting for Innovate Dynamics was convened not in their sleek Silicon Valley headquarters, but via a secure video conference link that crackled with tension. Evelyn, now in a hotel suite in San Francisco, looked out at the city lights, her reflection a calm silhouette against the glittering backdrop. On her screen, a dozen faces stared back at her from their respective locations, a gallery of concern, confusion, and outright disbelief. Ben Carter was there, his expression a neutral mask of professionalism, but she could see the supportive set of his jaw. Others, like the young progressive head of marketing, looked intrigued. But all eyes inevitably drifted to the top center square, occupied by Arthur Kensington. Arthur, in his late 60s, with a mane of silver hair and a lifetime of Ivy League privilege etched into his features, looked apoplectic. He represented the old guard, the money men who had initially invested in Evelyn's genius but were perpetually unnerved by her conviction. Let me see if I have this straight, Evelyn. Arthur began, his voice dangerously smooth. You were subjected to, by your own account, a rude flight attendant, an unfortunate and deeply unprofessional incident to be sure. And in response, you have unilaterally decided to detonate a $500 million contract, the largest in this company's history, without board consultation. I did not make a unilateral decision, Arthur. Evelyn corrected him, her tone cool and precise. I made an executive judgment call based on a catastrophic failure of corporate character from our prospective partner. I called this meeting for the board to ratify that judgment. Ratify it? Arthur scoffed, a humorless laugh escaping his lips. We should be holding a vote on your immediate suspension. The market is going to crucify us. Our stock is already down 6% in after-hours trading based on the journal leak. Do you have any idea what this does to our 10-figure valuation? I have a very precise idea, Arthur, Evelyn replied, turning from the window to face the camera directly. Her gaze was unflinching. I also have a precise idea of what it does to our valuation to be publicly partnered with a company that fosters a culture of systemic bigotry. Let's talk about numbers, shall we? You like numbers. She gestured for Ben to share his screen. A crisp presentation filled the virtual space. A 2022 study by Glassdoor showed that 76% of job seekers and employees report that a diverse workforce is an important factor when evaluating companies and job offers. Our ability to attract and retain top talent, the very lifeblood of Innovate Dynamics, is predicated on our reputation as a progressive, inclusive employer. A public, lucrative partnership with Aura Airlines, once the details of this incident become public, would make us hypocrites. It would be a poison pill for employee morale and future recruitment. She clicked to the next slide. Furthermore, a Deloitte report from 2023 on brand reputation found that consumers are increasingly making purchasing decisions based on brand values. 57% of consumers are more loyal to brands that commit to addressing social inequities. Our clients, who range from electric vehicle manufacturers to green energy firms, are themselves progressive. They partner with us not just for our technology, but for what we represent. An alliance with Aura, as they have revealed themselves to be, is a direct contradiction of our brand identity. The long-term cost of that brand dilution would far exceed $500 million. Arthur was unmoved. This is speculative, Evelyn. You're talking about feelings and brand identity. I'm talking about $500 million in guaranteed revenue. Money that was already factored into our projections for the next 5 years. You're gambling the company's future on a personal slight. It was not a personal slight, Arthur. Evelyn's voice rose for the first time, sharp and commanding, silencing him. It was a corporate action. An employee of Aura, acting as an agent of her company, engaged in discriminatory behavior. Her supervisor, another agent of the company, ratified that behavior by punishing the victim instead of investigating the incident. This wasn't one bad apple. This was the system working as designed. They have a problem, and I refuse to let their problem become our problem. She leaned closer to the camera. Think of it this way. If we were about to acquire a company and our due diligence revealed its factories were unsafe and polluting a local river, would we go through with the deal? Of course not. The liability is too great. What I experienced on that plane was a form of cultural pollution. The liability to our brand, our people, and our soul is too great. I will not sign it. A long silence filled the virtual room. The other board members looked from Evelyn's determined face to Arthur's furious one. They were at an impasse. Finally, a soft voice spoke up. It was Maria Flores, a respected tech ethicist who had joined the board 2 years prior. Arthur, she said gently, I understand your position on the fiscal responsibility we all share, but Evelyn is making a crucial point about a different kind of liability. In the 21st century, a company's values are one of its most significant assets. What is the dollar value of trust? What is the cost of being on the wrong side of history? We have seen countless examples of companies suffering irreparable harm for ignoring these questions. Look at Uber's scandals in 2017, or the backlash against brands that stay silent on major social issues. The public's memory is long, and their wallets follow their principles. Ben Carter chimed in. From a purely operational standpoint, the termination is already in motion. The WSJ piece is out. To reverse course now, to go crawling back to Aura, we would look weak, foolish, and unprincipled. We would validate Arthur's claim that it was just a personal slight and invalidate Evelyn's leadership. The damage at that point would be catastrophic. The logic was closing in on Arthur. He was cornered not by emotion, but by a modern corporate strategy he fundamentally disliked but could not logically refute. He saw the faces of the other board members nodding in agreement with Maria and Ben. He had lost the room. He sank back in his chair, his face grim. So what's the plan, Evelyn? You've blown a $500 million hole in our revenue stream. How do you propose to fix it? Evelyn's expression softened, but her eyes remained steely. We don't need to fix it, Arthur. We need to leverage it. We are about to become the lead story in every business journal in the country, a company that walked away from a fortune to stand by its principles. The right partners will notice. Solstice Air, for one, has been trying to get a meeting with us for months. Their corporate culture is famously people-centric. I suspect their CEO will be calling me by sunrise. We didn't lose a deal. We just opened ourselves up for a better one. She looked at each board member one by one. I need your vote. Let's make it official. All in favor of ratifying the termination of the Aura Airlines contract. Ben's hand went up instantly, then Maria's, then two more. After a moment's hesitation, another. Finally, only Arthur remained, his arms crossed. He stared at Evelyn's unyielding image on the screen, a muscle twitching in his jaw. With a heavy, defeated sigh, he slowly, grudgingly raised his hand. The vote was unanimous. The battle was won, but the war was just beginning. Now the world would be watching. The news didn't just break. It detonated. The Wall Street Journal headline was a dagger. Innovate Dynamics halts $500 million deal with Aura Airlines, citing irreconcilable differences. In the gleaming 50th-floor office of Aura Airlines CEO Richard Sterling, the article felt like a physical blow. Sterling, a man whose silver hair and tailored suits were designed to project an aura of unflappable control, was very much flapped. He slammed his hand down on his mahogany desk, rattling a collection of silver airplane models. Irreconcilable differences. He roared into his speakerphone, connected to his head of public relations, Jessica Chen. What the hell does that mean? We had a done deal. We were shaking hands tomorrow. Get Evelyn Reed on the phone. Now. She's not taking our calls, Richard. Jessica's voice was strained. Her office is stonewalling. They're directing all inquiries to a statement they're releasing later today. Richard Sterling was a product of an older school of business, one where problems could be solved with a firm handshake, a round of golf, or, if necessary, a well-placed threat. This new-age corporate activism baffled and infuriated him. This is a shakedown, he snarled, pacing his office. She wants more money, a bigger piece of the pie. It's a last-minute power play. Unbelievable arrogance. I'm not sure it's about money, Richard, Jessica said carefully. The language, irreconcilable differences in corporate values, that's deliberate. It's meant to wound. Something else is going on here. Sterling stopped pacing. Find out what it is. Dig into Innovate. Are they in financial trouble? Is a competitor trying to poach the deal? I want every skeleton in Evelyn Reed's closet on my desk by noon. As Jessica mobilized her team to do damage control, a low-priority incident report from LaGuardia finally trickled up the chain of command. It detailed the removal of a disruptive passenger named Evelyn Reed from Flight 715 the previous day, following a confrontation with a flight attendant. When the report landed on Sterling's desk, he initially dismissed it. A customer service issue? Don't be ridiculous. This woman is a CEO. She's not getting kicked off a plane like some spring breaker. But the name was a perfect match. The timing was a perfect match. The flight attendant's report, written by Caroline Peterson, described Dr. Reed as agitated and verbally aggressive, claiming she became enraged over a small accidental spill. There was no mention of any racial comment. It was a self-serving piece of fiction designed to protect herself. Sterling connected the dots, but he connected them incorrectly. So that's it, he exclaimed to Jessica over the phone. She got angry about some spilled water, got herself kicked off the plane, and now out of pure spite she's torpedoing the deal. The unmitigated gall. His strategy was immediate and foolishly aggressive. He saw it as a simple PR problem to be managed. "Okay, Jessica, here's how we play it," he commanded. "We leak our side of the story. We frame her as unstable, an erratic executive, a CEO who lets a minor personal grievance dictate a $500 million business decision. We question her fitness to lead. We'll be the victims of her unprofessional tantrum." Jessica Chen felt a knot of dread tighten in her stomach. "Richard, that's incredibly risky. Attacking a respected self-made black female CEO? The optics on that are terrible. It could backfire spectacularly." "Nonsense," Sterling snapped. "We're Aura Airlines. We're a legacy carrier. She's a tech upstart. We control the narrative. Now I want that flight attendant, Caroline, brought in for an interview. We need to make sure her story is rock solid. Have legal prep her. I want her to be the picture of a calm, professional employee assaulted by a belligerent passenger." Within hours, Caroline Peterson was sitting in a sterile meeting room at Aura's corporate headquarters near Chicago. She was terrified. She'd seen the news about the canceled deal. She knew deep down this was her fault. But when two of Aura's top lawyers began to coach her, her fear was replaced by a sense of self-preservation. They didn't ask her what happened. They told her what happened. "Miss Peterson," one of the lawyers, a severe-looking man named Graves, began, "you were performing your duties when the passenger, Dr. Reed, became agitated. Is that correct?" "Yes," Caroline whispered. "She raised her voice at you, creating a scene and disturbing other passengers." "Correct. She was very loud," Caroline lied, her voice gaining a sliver of confidence. "And when you tried to de-escalate the situation, she became even more hostile, forcing you to call for a supervisor out of concern for the safety and comfort of everyone in the cabin?" "Yes, I was just trying to do my job." They built the story for her, piece by piece, omitting her provocations, her sneers, and most importantly, the racist sentence that had lit the fuse. By the time they were done, Caroline had convinced herself of her own victimhood. She was the diligent employee, and Dr. Evelyn Reed was the unhinged aggressor. Aura Airlines released its first official statement late that afternoon. It was a masterclass in corporate gaslighting. "While we are disappointed by Innovate Dynamics' abrupt decision, we are even more concerned by the events that seem to have precipitated it. We have a preliminary report of an incident where Innovate's CEO, Dr. Evelyn Reed, was unable to meet the standards of decorum and safety required on our aircraft, leading to her removal from a flight. While we respect Dr. Reed's accomplishments, we cannot allow any passenger, regardless of their status, to compromise the safety and well-being of our crew and other customers. We believe this business decision was based on personal animus, not professional principle, and we are exploring our legal options." The statement was a declaration of war. Richard Sterling sat back in his chair, confident he had seized control. He had painted Evelyn Reed as an angry black woman, a tired, toxic stereotype, but one he believed would work with the public and, more importantly, with his own board. He had no idea that 600 miles away, in a dorm room at NYU, a 20-year-old tech student named Leo Martinez was watching the news, his phone in his hand, feeling a growing sense of disgust. And on that phone was a 47-second video clip that was about to blow Richard Sterling's entire narrative to pieces. Leo Martinez was not an activist. He was a computer science major who spent most of his time coding, studying, and trying to figure out how to pay off his student loans. The first-class seat on Flight 715 had been a fluke, a reward from his father for making the dean's list, a rare taste of a world he didn't belong to. He'd been more interested in the free ice cream sundae than the cabin's interpersonal dramas. But the exchange between the elegant black woman and the vindictive flight attendant had been impossible to ignore. It had made him uncomfortable. When the flight attendant, Caroline, had spat out that line, "Well, aren't you a long way from Coach?" Leo had instinctively winced. It was the kind of thing his own grandmother, a proud Puerto Rican woman, had faced her whole life. Without even thinking, his thumb had found the video record button on his phone. which he'd been holding under the armrest. He only captured 47 seconds. The clip started just after the racist comment. It showed the black woman, Dr. Reed, standing with an almost supernatural calm. Her voice was clear, firm, but not yelling. "I see," her voice says in the video. "Please have the gate agent and airport security meet us at the jet bridge. You will be reporting this incident, and so will I, but I suspect our reports will differ." The video then panned slightly, catching the flight attendant's face, a mask of panicked anger, as she tried to backtrack. It captured Dr. Reed's firm dismissal and her turning to him. "Sir, did you hear what she just said?" Leo's own shaky voice is audible off camera. "Yeah, I heard it." The clip ended there. It wasn't the whole story, but it was enough. It was the truth. He hadn't thought much of it after the woman was escorted off. But now, sitting in his dorm room, he was watching the news on his laptop. A stern-faced Aura Airlines spokesperson was reading the company's official statement, painting Dr. Evelyn Reed as an out-of-control, angry passenger. "We cannot allow any passenger, regardless of their status, to compromise the safety and well-being of our crew," the spokesperson droned. Leo felt a surge of hot anger. It was a complete lie, a fabrication. They were publicly crucifying this woman to protect their brand and their employee. He looked down at the phone in his hand. That 47-second clip was no longer just a random video. It was evidence. It was a weapon. He was scared. What would happen if he released it? Would the airline come after him? Could he get in trouble? He was just a student. These were powerful, wealthy people. He thought about just deleting it, forgetting the whole thing, and getting back to his coding homework. Meanwhile, in a San Francisco law office, Dr. Reed's newly retained lawyer, Marcus Thorne, was beginning his own offensive. Marcus was legendary in Silicon Valley, a sharp, impeccably dressed black man who specialized in high-stakes corporate litigation. He moved with the confidence of a chess grandmaster who saw the whole board. "They've chosen the angry black woman narrative," Marcus said, pacing in front of Evelyn. "It's as predictable as it is disgusting. They believe they can discredit you before you can discredit them." "It's a lie," Evelyn said simply. "Of course it is," Marcus replied. "But lies are effective until they are confronted with indisputable truth. We need to find that truth. We need to find witnesses. A first-class cabin is a small space. Someone saw something." His legal team was already at work, cross-referencing the flight manifest with public records. They were trying to identify the other passengers in the cabin, but it was a slow, painstaking process. They sent a feeler to the politician type, a state assemblyman from Albany, but his office replied with a curt, "No comment," unwilling to get involved. The other passengers were proving elusive. "What about the flight attendant?" Evelyn asked. "Caroline Peterson." "My investigator is already on it," Marcus said with a thin smile. "And Miss Peterson, it seems, has a history." He pulled up a file on his tablet. "This is preliminary, but we found 3 separate internal complaints filed against her over the last 4 years, all from minority passengers. One from a Latino businessman who claimed she deliberately skipped him during meal service. Another from an Asian family who said she made a condescending remark about their English. A third from a black musician who alleged she accused him of trying to steal a blanket. All 3 complaints were dismissed internally by Aura, with a note about customer misunderstanding. Evelyn nodded slowly. "So this isn't a one-time lapse in judgment. It's a pattern of behavior that Aura has actively ignored and enabled." "Exactly," Marcus said. "We're not just fighting your case anymore. We're building a case against Aura's entire corporate culture. Their statement wasn't just a defense, it was an admission. They admitted they removed you. Now we just have to prove why. But it's still their word against yours. He said, she said in the press is messy. We need something more. We need a smoking gun." Back in his dorm room, Leo Martinez made his decision. He thought about his grandmother being told to use the service entrance. He thought about the calm dignity of the woman on the plane, and he thought about the smug, lying faces on the news. He opened his laptop and created a new anonymous Twitter account. The handle was simple, at Flight 715 Witness. He uploaded the 47-second video. He didn't add any dramatic commentary. He just typed a single sentence. This is what really happened on Aura Flight 715. Dr. Evelyn Reed wasn't aggressive. She was targeted. #Aura Airlines lies. He added a few more hashtags. #Justice for Dear Reed, #Flying While Black, #Corporate Racism. Then with a deep breath, he clicked tweet. For a few minutes, nothing happened. The tweet sat there with 0 likes, 0 retweets. Leo felt a pang of anticlimax. Maybe nobody would even see it. Maybe this was a mistake. Then it got 1 like, then a retweet from a small social justice account. Then another, then a dozen. Within an hour, it had 1,000. By the end of the night, it had 100,000. By morning, it would have millions. The smoking gun wasn't just found. It had been fired into the heart of the internet for the entire world to see. And the sound of the blast was about to shatter the boardroom doors of Aura Airlines. The internet does not deliberate. It incinerates. The video from at Flight 715 Witness spread like a digital wildfire, leaping from Twitter to Instagram, from Facebook to TikTok, and finally, into the ravenous maw of the 24-hour news cycle. By 7 a.m., it was the lead story on every morning show. The 47-second clip was played on a loop, juxtaposed with Aura Airlines' self-righteous statement. The contrast was damning. On one side of the screen, there was Aura's official narrative, a supposedly unruly and aggressive CEO. On the other side was the video, Dr. Evelyn Reed, poised and articulate, calmly requesting security after being subjected to a clear insult. The video didn't show Caroline Peterson's racist comment, but Dr. Reed's reaction and Leo's confirming voice made its nature terrifyingly clear to millions of viewers. The public's verdict was swift and merciless. The hashtag #Aura Airlines lies exploded globally. It was followed by the more potent #Justice for Dear Reed. People shared their own stories of discrimination while flying, creating a torrential narrative of corporate neglect and prejudice. Dr. Reed was no longer just a CEO. She was a symbol. Caroline Peterson became the face of Airline Karen, a meme-ified villain. Richard Sterling's face was plastered everywhere next to quotes from his arrogant, victim-blaming statement. For Richard Sterling, the morning was a descent into a nightmare. He woke up to 100 missed calls and a stock ticker that looked like a ski slope. Aura's stock, $1 had plummeted 18% in pre-market trading, wiping out over $800 million in market capitalization, far more than the deal they had lost. "What is this video? Where did it come from?" he bellowed at Jessica Chen, his PR head. She was in full crisis mode, her voice tight with a mixture of fear and, "I told you so." "We don't know who at Flight 715 Witness is, Richard," she said, "but it doesn't matter. The video is out. Our narrative is dead. We accused her of being aggressive. The video shows she was the calmest person in the room. We're not just wrong. We look like malicious liars." The corporate ecosystem began to turn on them. First, it was the celebrity backlash. A-list actors, musicians, and athletes tweeted their support for Dr. Reed, many of them black, and announced they were boycotting the airline. Disgusted by it, Aura Airlines, standing with the brilliant Dr. Evelyn Reed. "Your first-class cabin is no place for third-class bigotry. #boycott Aura." One post from a famous actor read, racking up 500,000 likes in an hour. Then came the corporate partners. Aura had a lucrative co-branded credit card with a major national bank. By 10 a.m., the bank issued a statement. "We are deeply disturbed by the recent events concerning Aura Airlines. We are reevaluating our partnership, pending a thorough and transparent investigation." Reevaluating was corporate speak for, "We're heading for the exits." A major beverage company that was Aura's exclusive soft drink provider announced it was suspending its contract. The hits kept coming, each one a fresh blow to the airline's bottom line and reputation. Inside Aura's headquarters, the atmosphere was one of pure panic. Caroline Peterson was immediately suspended without pay. The legal team that had coached her story was now frantically trying to distance the company from her. The very lawyers who had told her what to say were now treating her like a leper. Richard Sterling, realizing his aggressive strategy had backfired into a full-blown catastrophe, tried to pivot. He ordered Jessica to draft an apology. The first draft was a weak, "We regret the incident was perceived this way" statement. "Not good enough," Jessica shot back, her professional deference gone, replaced by raw urgency. "Richard, they're not mad about a perception. They're mad about the reality. They're mad that we were caught on video being exactly what Dr. Reed said we were, and then we lied about it. We have to fall on our sword. A full, complete, unconditional apology." Meanwhile, Evelyn Reed and Marcus Thorne watched the storm unfold from their San Francisco command center. They said nothing publicly. They didn't have to. The world was making their case for them. Marcus's phone rang. It was the general counsel for Solstice Air, Aura's biggest and most progressive competitor. "Marcus," the voice on the other end said, "I'm calling on behalf of our CEO, David Chen. He's been following the news. He's horrified by what happened to Dr. Reed, but he's also deeply impressed. Her strength, her principles. That's the kind of leadership we admire." Marcus listened, a slow smile spreading across his face. "Go on." "David would like to meet with Dr. Reed as soon as possible. We know the technology in the Aura deal was groundbreaking. We think it would be an even better fit for Solstice's Fleet of the Future initiative. We're prepared to not only match Aura's offer, but to improve upon it. And more importantly, we want to issue a joint statement championing principled leadership and diversity in business." Marcus covered the receiver and looked at Evelyn. "The fish are jumping into the boat," he whispered. Evelyn allowed herself a small, triumphant smile. The karma was hitting hard and fast. Aura Airlines wasn't just losing money or a deal. They were losing their place in the market to a rival that understood the one thing Richard Sterling never did. That in the modern world, integrity wasn't just a virtue, it was a priceless asset. The media storm was no longer just about one incident on one flight. It had become a referendum on corporate accountability. Aura Airlines had been tried in the court of public opinion, and the verdict was in. Guilty on all counts. The only thing left was the sentencing, and Richard Sterling was about to find out it was far more severe than he could ever have imagined. The apology, when it came, was a disaster. Richard Sterling, forced by his board, appeared in a hastily recorded video. He sat at his large mahogany desk, looking stiff and uncomfortable in a crisp white shirt. The teleprompter was practically reflected in his eyes as he read the soulless, lawyer-approved text. "On behalf of Aura Airlines," he began, "I would like to extend our deepest apologies to Dr. Evelyn Reed for the unfortunate experience she had on one of our flights. The events, as they have now come to light, do not reflect the high standards of service and respect we strive for." The public saw right through it. The comment section of the YouTube video was a tidal wave of vitriol. "He's not sorry it happened. He's sorry he got caught," one top comment read. Another said, "The high standards of lying to the public and smearing a victim." The video's dislike-to-like ratio was astronomical. It was a digital public stoning. The performance was the final nail in Sterling's coffin. His board of directors, watching their personal wealth evaporate as the stock continued to crater, saw him not as a leader, but as the primary liability. They convened an emergency meeting that evening, from which Sterling was pointedly excluded. The outcome was brutal and swift. The next morning, an official press release from the Aura Airlines board of directors hit the wire. Richard Sterling steps down as CEO of Aura Airlines effective immediately. The statement went on to announce a top-to-bottom independent investigation into our corporate culture, training protocols, and complaint resolution processes. It was a complete capitulation. The news of Sterling's ouster was the top story, but a secondary headline held a more personal sting of karma. It was reported that Caroline Peterson had been summarily fired from Aura Airlines. But her punishment didn't end there. Her name and face, now inextricably linked with the airline Karen meme, were infamous. She was doxxed online. She received threats. Her personal life was shattered. In a single act of petty racism, she had immolated her own career and reputation, becoming a public pariah. The hard karma had hit, but the story wasn't over. The final, perfect twist came a week later. The setting was a brightly lit press conference in the main atrium of Solstice Air's gleaming, eco-friendly headquarters. A massive screen behind the podium showed the logos of Solstice Air and Innovate Dynamics side by side. Dr. Evelyn Reed stood at the podium, looking radiant and powerful. Beside her stood David Chen, the widely respected CEO of Solstice. Today, Chen began, is about more than just a new partnership. It's about a shared vision for the future. A future where technology makes us more efficient, but also one where our corporate values make us more human. He smiled warmly at Evelyn. We are therefore honored to announce a new, exclusive partnership with Innovate Dynamics, a deal valued at not $500 million but $750 million, to revolutionize our fleet and set a new standard for green aviation. A gasp went through the crowd of reporters. He wasn't finished. Furthermore, he said, his voice ringing with conviction, Solstice Air is making a $25 million donation in Dr. Reed's name to a consortium of nonprofits dedicated to advancing women and minorities in STEM fields. Let me be clear. We are not just investing in Dr. Reed's technology. We are investing in her integrity. When she walked away from that deal, she didn't just stand up for herself. She stood up for everyone who has ever been made to feel small, to feel like they don't belong. That kind of courage is the most valuable asset any leader can possess, and we are proud to be her partner. Evelyn then stepped to the microphone. She didn't gloat. She didn't mention Aura Airlines or Richard Sterling or Caroline Peterson by name. She didn't have to. She spoke of the future, of innovation, of the importance of building companies where every single person, from the boardroom to the baggage claim, is treated with dignity. Integrity, she concluded, her voice resonating with quiet strength, is not about what you do when people are watching. It's about what you do when you think no one is. It's about making the right choice, even when it's the hard choice. Today, we have shown that doing the right thing is not just good morals, it's good business. The applause was thunderous. In the end, the karma was perfectly poetically complete. The racist flight attendant lost her job and her name. The arrogant CEO lost his position and his legacy. The airline that fostered a toxic culture lost hundreds of millions in value, its reputation in tatters, and was forced into a humiliating public reckoning. And Dr. Evelyn Reed, the woman they tried to humiliate and dismiss, she didn't just get justice. She got a bigger, better deal. She elevated her company to new heights. She became a national icon of corporate integrity and quiet strength. She had turned an act of ugly prejudice into a monument to her principles, proving that the most powerful response to being told you don't belong is to build a world where you undeniably do. This story is a testament to what happens when quiet dignity decides to get loud. Dr. Evelyn Reed's journey wasn't just about revenge, it was about reaffirming a fundamental truth. In our interconnected world, a company's character is as valuable as its capital. Aura Airlines learned that $500 million lesson. They thought they could control the narrative, but they forgot about the power of a single witness, the speed of the internet, and the unyielding strength of a leader who refused to be diminished. This real-life drama shows that karma isn't always a distant cosmic force. Sometimes, it's a series of shrewd business decisions delivered with ice-cold precision. If this story of justice and spectacular corporate karma moved you, show your support by hitting that like button. Share this video so more people can hear how one woman's integrity toppled an empire of arrogance. And most importantly, subscribe to the channel for more incredible real-life dramas where karma doesn't just knock, it breaks down the door.